Greetings, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Reading Epic Threads. I'm your host, Patrick Gunnels, joining you from Houston, Texas, and today is March 18th, 2025 at 4:22 p.m. Central Daylight Time. One piece for you today, possibly two. We'll see how long this one is, but it's from Erik Carlson. Can't wait to get in front of you. And don't forget, the amazing 30% off special is still active over at epicminerals.net. I'm gonna put this little clips. It's gonna upload and then it's gonna be fine. In fact, I'll pause while it uploads. So watch right here. Ooh, I wonder if I could make that any bigger or fit the screen any better. But there is a P900 camera, possibly a P1000 camera right now. And look, it's such a familiar sight. That's what the planes in the sky look like. Oh, it's just condensation. You silly conspiracy theorists. No. It's just contrails, y'all. But no, we have technology that allows you to zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in just a little bit more. And we're going to pause here for a second because, maybe it still is condensation. But I think when we get just a little bit closer using this Nikon P1000 camera, we might really get to look into what this damn plane is dumping on our population. And here we are. There it is. Ah, yes. Nothing but filth coming straight out of this plane. No, it is not condensation. It is filth. It is heavy metals. It is toxins. It is currently inhabiting your body. What do you do about it? Well, I'll tell you what you do about it. Right now, you go to epicminerals.net. You get the Zeolite Extra Spray with humic and fulvic acids. The zeolite binds to the heavy metals and microplastics and everything else that they're frickin' putting into your lungs via these horrible chemtrail experiments, and they pee out of your body. Bam, good to go. epicminerals.net for a limited time. 30% off. So if you've been waiting, now's the time. You can only do it once, one time per customer. Promo code FREEDOM30. That's promo code FREEDOM30 at epicminerals.net. And now, without further ado, from badlands.substack.com, Massie Maximalists. This is going to ruffle some feathers by Erik Carlson. Let me start by saying I don't trust Thomas Massie. Let me also start by saying I don't claim to be right about everything. Nor does it elicit anger in me when someone respectfully disagrees with me or presents information that shows where I might be wrong. I just want to know the truth. Far too often, even in our community, disagreements end in insults being lobbed. When one or both sides of the argument lack facts or true conviction in their belief, they often try to bully their way out of having to challenge their belief with honest debate, as they aren't willing even to listen or consider what the other person has to say. Insults will end the conversation as quickly as possible, with unchallenged beliefs remaining firmly intact. When it comes to choosing Donald Trump versus anyone in politics or the media, I'm going to give Trump the benefit of the doubt every time. He has earned that trust. It's amazing how, in the end, after the smoke of propaganda clears, he ends up being right every time. Thomas Massie supporters will say that he is a man of conviction, that he refuses to go against those convictions, that he refuses to compromise on those convictions. Don't take it personally when I say this, but I see a man who doesn't get deals done, a man who is, as Trump said, is a grandstander. The antithesis of Donald Trump, who is the epitome of a man who gets deals done. If Trump is a movie producer, Massie is a movie critic. Massie has been in Congress since 2012 and has yet to author a bill that has been passed into law where the rubber meets the road, where ideas become reality, where change actually occurs. In just over a month, Trump has made ideas reality like no other president before him. Are you angry at me for having an opinion that you may not agree with? If you are, you must understand that this is not how human beings are supposed to react to an opposing point of view. This reaction comes from how we've been conditioned. I don't know Thomas Massie personally, and I've never met the guy. Most likely you haven't either. After school as a kid, I used to watch reruns of the 1950s TV show Leave It to Beaver. Beaver's teenage brother Wally had a friend named Eddie Haskell. All the kids hated Haskell. He was a total jerk, but the adults thought he was kind and respectful because of how he acted in their presence. The adults were convinced that Eddie Haskell was an angel, even though the kids told them otherwise. The adults believed Haskell when he said the things they wanted to hear. What a lovely dress you have on, Mrs. Cleaver. What is a grandstander? To me, a political grandstander is someone who tries to take credit for something he didn't contribute to in any way, someone who leeches off of a successful movement after the momentum has already swung in that direction, a coattail rider, someone who climbs on board after it's safe to do so with no risks. This could be someone who speaks up against the 2020 election results or COVID vaccines 4 years after the fact. Al Sharpton is the ultimate grandstander. He shows up to every protest of the police after a black person is killed by a cop, but you won't see him protesting the black-on-black violence that occurs every weekend in Chicago. You won't see him serving the black community in any way. He shows up when there is something for him to gain. He's a grandstander. Deal makers put skin in the game. Deal makers inevitably make compromises to get deals done. The definition of a deal is both sides agreeing to something, and without at least some compromise, no deals are made. It's easy to be on offense when you have nothing to defend. It's easy to be a critic and hold your convictions when you have no track record to be critiqued. Unwavering conviction sounds good on paper and in theory. Unwillingness to compromise sounds pretty bad. So what's the difference? One is viewed as honorable while the other is considered selfish. If unwavering conviction stands in the way of getting anything done, how is it not an unwillingness to compromise? When the autistic Raymond from the movie Rain Man insisted on only wearing Kmart underwear, he was being unreasonable. He wasn't a man with unwavering convictions. When a wide receiver refuses to block because he thought the play call should have been a pass and not a run, he simply isn't being a team player. A team can't win with players like this. Whether you like it or not, as currently formed, politics is a team sport. When the coach calls the play, everyone on the team needs to be on board. You may not like the play call. You may even let it be known in the huddle, but you execute the play as called. You do this because you are a team player and you understand it is a team sport. Unwavering conviction or an unwillingness to compromise. If your elderly parent is having a health issue or your wife goes into labor, you drive them straight to the hospital. You may even exceed the speed limit, even though it's against the law. They may go against your convictions. You don't pull up to a gas station and top off the tank because you notice the line is a little shorter than usual. You don't stop off at Jiffy Lube because you noticed it's been 2,098 miles since your last oil change, and you always change the oil every 3,000 miles. You don't stop off at 7-Eleven to grab some water because you insist on always drinking a gallon of water by noon. It's great to have convictions, but sometimes emergencies arise that require you to temporarily relax those convictions. You drive straight to the hospital because there are matters that need to be tended to immediately. As a Christian, the only thing on which I have an unwavering conviction is my faith in Jesus Christ, just as I would expect any Jew, Muslim, Hindu, or Buddhist or atheist to have the same unwavering conviction in their beliefs. With everything else in life, you need to make compromises at work, at home, literally every day, especially in politics. Trump has done more in 2 months to save America than all other Republicans and Republican administrations combined. He wants to continue this without allowing anything to get in the way, like a government shutdown. Trump chose to push the continuing resolution 6 months down the road so they can continue to focus on ridding the U.S. government of corruption and waste that has caused the need for the continuing resolution in the first place. Massie understood that his vote would not cause the measure to fail. Therefore, he used the opportunity to grandstand, to look holier than thou, and to appear to be a man of unwavering conviction when there was no risk to him. Or so he thought. I noticed that following Trump's call to primary Massie, that all liberal news rags were standing in unison, commending Massie for his courage to stand up to Trump, for holding strong to his convictions. All the social media influencers that I view as shills, like Ian Carroll, spent the day bashing Trump and praising Massie as well. Suddenly, nothing Trump is doing to save America seems to matter. Forget the trillions he is in the process of cutting. His stance on Massie is seen as a mistake in some people's eyes. Some have even gone as far as saying Trump doesn't really want them to agree with him on this. Trump's reaction to Massie's refusal to be a team player is the result of his ongoing frustration with Massie. Trump clearly believes that Massie is not one to be trusted. He believes Massie is just in it for himself, that he is all show, no go, using every opportunity to look good when there is no risk to be taken, taking a stance when he knows his vote won't make the difference. Why is Trump so tired of Massie's grandstanding? It didn't just start the other day. It goes back a while. In fact, let's revisit in chronological order some examples of Thomas Massie working to undermine Trump. In 2019, Massie voted to oppose Trump in building the wall. From the Cincinnati Enquirer, quote, Representative Thomas Massie, the congressman who represents northern Kentucky, voted with the Democrat majority House of Representatives Tuesday afternoon to overturn President Donald Trump's emergency declaration. Massie was one of just 13 Republican representatives who broke party lines to support the resolution which aims to prevent the president from circumventing congressional approval to fund the construction of a 234-mile wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, end quote. Massie chose to grandstand on the issue, claiming to protect the Constitution. This is a common theme with him. An emergency act was put forward by Trump to avoid having to go through a corrupt Congress for funding whose members didn't want the wall to be built. They opposed it because it would financially hurt the people they work for, the cabal. The wall would hamper their drug and human trafficking and make it harder for the country to be flooded with illegal aliens as well as foreign terrorists. Massie stood arm in arm with these people in shutting down the wall. During the COVID lockdowns, at a time, I believe the deep state created a pandemic narrative to destroy America with lockdowns that were intended to last much longer than they did. Massie chose to stand against the relief fund. Trump believed a relief fund was necessary to protect Americans and America from the destruction he knew was being unleashed on the nation. Trump understood the fund could be used corruptly and would create inflation, but Americans needed the relief. The country needed to be reopened as quickly as possible. This was a case of compromising for the better of the nation, getting a deal done, getting money into American and American companies' hands before irreparable damage was done, damage being inflicted by foreign enemies. From the Washington Post, quote, Massie opposed the rescue bill on fiscal and constitutional grounds and made demands Friday for a recorded vote, which ultimately required more than half the House to be present to prove a quorum. Quote, I came here to make sure our republic doesn't die by unanimous consent in an empty chamber, he said. Requesting the recorded vote, a quorum was present, and Republicans and Democrats rejected Massie's request, passing the bill by voice vote. Earlier in the day, Trump called Massie a third-rate grandstander on Twitter. He just wants the publicity, he said, calling on voters to throw Massie out of the Republican Party. Massie's colleagues were even more irate. Representative Peter T. King, Republican of New York, blamed him in an early Friday morning tweet for risking members' health, risk of infection, and risk of legislation being delayed. Disgraceful, irresponsible. End quote. Thomas Massie protected the election results of 2020. From Courier Journal, quote, if President Trump is going to overturn the results of the November election, he'll have to do it without the help of Representative Thomas Massie. The U.S. congressman from Kentucky released a joint statement with 6 other House members on Sunday denouncing a planned objection to the certification of President-elect Joe Biden's win when Congress meets in a joint session on Wednesday. End quote. Again, Massie claimed to be protecting the Constitution in this issue. He stated that Congress had no constitutional right to get involved, and that it was a state issue. A state issue? The liberal-run states were the ones stealing the election. Does he even listen to himself? The corrupt states are supposed to regulate themselves. Of course, he went on to acknowledge that the election raised profound questions as to its legality, in my opinion. He ultimately decided through his actions that it was better to have the election stolen and Biden put into power for 4 years than to rectify it through means that may not be considered to be by the book. Massie also blamed Trump for J6. From USA Today, Republican Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky criticized President Donald Trump and blamed him for inciting the riot Wednesday that led to the seizure of the Capitol building. I think Trump is at fault here, Massie told the Dispatch. I watched almost all of his speech. I felt like it was inevitable. Massie even stood up for Adam Schiff. From the McClatchy Washington Bureau, quote, conservatives are conveying anger with Northern Kentucky Rep. Thomas Massie over his vote to oppose a resolution censuring California Representative Adam Schiff, a favorite boogeyman of Republicans. Massie joined 19 other House Republicans in defecting from party leadership from condemning Schiff for championing the investigatory onslaught against former President Donald Trump. Combined with unanimous Democratic opposition, the measure failed, surprising even Schiff. The libertarian-leaning Massie claimed the resolution was unconstitutional for a clause that instructed Schiff should be fined $16 million if the House Ethics Committee found he, quote, lied, made representations, and abused sensitive information. Allowing a majority of Congress to take $16 million, 92 years of pay, from any member of Congress is short-sighted, Massie tweeted again of the Wednesday evening vote. Can we not imagine a time when this precedent would be used against conservatives? Fortunately, it failed, end quote. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, a Florida freshman, said Massie was, quote, making misrepresentations about the bill she authored. A band of pro-Trump political figures went even further, casting doubts about Massie's reasoning and calling for his defeat. Massie has endorsed Trump rival Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Quote, not only is he being duplicitous, partisan, and moronic about his choice, he's straight up lying about the Constitution to achieve his political end goals. Sick, wrote Raheem Kassam, a British political activist and editor-in-chief of the National Pulse. Kentucky deserves a lot better, chimed in Steve Bannon, a former counselor to Trump and host of a streaming program called The War Room. End quote. Question for Grok. Did Thomas Massie vote to raise the debt ceiling under Joe Biden? From Grok. Yes. Thomas Massie voted to raise the debt ceiling under President Joe Biden. Specifically, he supported the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, a bipartisan bill negotiated by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden. This legislation passed in late May and early June 2023, suspended the debt ceiling until January 2025 while implementing certain spending limits. Massie's vote was pivotal in the House Rules Committee, where he helped advance the bill to the House floor despite opposition from some conservative colleagues. The bill ultimately passed the House on May 31st, 2023, with a vote of 314 to 117, and Massie voted in favor. This marked a notable shift, as it was the first time Massie had voted to increase the debt ceiling during his congressional tenure, having previously consistently opposed such measures. End quote. Trump has a point. Massie voted to raise the debt ceiling under Biden, but he refused to do so under Trump. What does one make of this other than grandstanding? When your vote matters, you go along with the group. When your vote doesn't matter, you vote in opposition, parading around as if you're constitutionally superior to others. Did Massie vote against Trump on the debt ceiling to drum up financial support? From Fox News, quote, Representative Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, told Fox News Digital on Thursday morning that he had hauled in $261,000 in campaign donations in recent days since President Donald Trump targeted him for ouster for opposing a government funding measure. In less than 3 days, I've received $261,000 through 3,203 individual donations without sending an email, a text, or a phone call. It's a fundraising record for me, and it's boosted my current cash on hand north of $1.1 million, Massie said in a statement, end quote. Who did Massie publicly endorse to be the Republican nominee for the 2024 election? From the Hill, quote, Representative Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, endorsed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for president on Wednesday, becoming the second House Republican to throw their support behind the Florida governor, even though he has not launched a campaign for the White House. The Kentucky Republican has had a rocky relationship with Trump in the past. In 2020, Trump labeled Massie a grandstander and called for him to be ousted from the Republican Party after he tried to hold up a COVID-19 relief package. Congress ultimately passed the bill, which was signed into law. 2 years later, Trump endorsed Massie for re-election despite the previous dust-up, and the congressman went on to win another 2 years in office. End quote. Do you see the difference here? Trump can't stand Massie, but he has endorsed him in his re-election for the good of the party, for the good of the country. Massie, in turn, endorsed Trump's opponent, DeSantis. After it became apparent that Trump was going to be the Republican nominee, Massie, of course, jumped on board the Trump train. What more needs to be said? I understand how someone could stand with Massie because of things he says and the goals he scores on empty nets after the goalie has been pulled. But the truth of the matter is that he doesn't make deals. He's like the world's greatest realtor who has never sold a house, or the world's greatest stockbroker who's never bought a stock. He's an all-pro armchair quarterback. The main argument people make in supporting Massie is that he doesn't take funding from AIPAC. Well, guess what? Neither does AOC. Because Massie supporters believe he doesn't work for the Jews, he is now beyond reproach, as though there is no one else or no other group that might control him. I'm not saying he's corrupt or controlled, but not taking money from AIPAC doesn't automatically make him beyond reproach. It's like saying that because someone isn't a made man in the mafia, that he isn't a criminal. While Trump makes deals and is saving the country, Massie grandstands, attempting to appear morally and constitutionally superior without actually getting anything done. One might call him sanctimonious. Interesting. The same nickname Trump gave the guy Massie publicly endorsed to be the Republican nominee in 2024. Coincidence? There are no coincidences. Oh, and by the way, it appears Massie's biggest financial donor is Zionist billionaire Jeffrey Yass. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. That is our show for today. A reminder, guys, the special at tulipblooms.shop, where everything is 30% off with promo code FREEDOM30. This is to celebrate my independence as a creator and content creator, and to ask you to become part of the Tulip Blooms community. One use per customer, promo code FREEDOM30, the number 30, at tulipblooms.shop, tulipblooms.shop, for the very best skincare the world has ever known. Follow me on readingepicthreads.substack.com. Follow me on X, pgunnels, the number 1, pgunnels1. Of course, hit the thumbs up, share this video. We are the news now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let us pray. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow.